5. Then you're at Titans 5-5, Jacksonville 6-4, and the Titans have won one head-to-head against Jacksonville, so they're a game back. Like, that's how quickly the tides can turn. Oh, hey there. Welcome in to the Hot Read Podcast live here at Boom Boss Crouch Pizza and Tap House here in Spring Hill. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, director of published content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. You can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. Joined as always by my lovely producer, JT. You can follow on social media at JT_Runke. JT, when was the last time somebody described you as lovely?
Maybe when I was like in preschool or something. I have no idea. You know, that's not what I hear.
It was. I was looking for a descriptive word, and that's what came to mind. So congratulations. It's a compliment. Absolutely.
I'm very flattered, and I'm excited to be back here at Boom Boss. You know, it's a gross Thursday afternoon here, or I guess evening, since I guess it gets dark so early.
I was about to say it feels like 7:38.
It is, because usually when we do the show,
right,
like. That's how I knew we're like, we get towards
right.
the end here. It's like, oh, it's starting to get dark. All right.
Absolutely.
It's football time. And guess what? Now it is
yes.
It is dark already.
It is dark.
I am flustered because I got a new computer.
You did get a new computer
an hour and a half ago.
You've spent the last hour. We've been setting up here at Boom Boss, and you've just been setting up all of your new accounts and putting in passwords and all of that.
Yes.
It's a gross day, like you said. We got gross Thursday night football to watch tonight, which we will be doing here live from Boom Boss, as promised, as contractually obligated. We will be here watching the Panthers-Bears matchup, a matchup that the Bears organization would love to end in a tie. Maybe bet a little on the tie. Who knows? Like, if
I'm betting that it goes to overtime.
Bet to overtime is we're live with that bet here on this game. But we're talking Titans-Buccaneers today. We'll be previewing that as we always do on Thursdays. A couple of housekeeping things before we dive into this Sunday matchup for Will Levis and company. If you're watching with us live on TikTok, or excuse me, not on TikTok, on Twitter or on Facebook, make sure to go on over to YouTube, Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. That's where you really want to watch us live. It's great that you're checking out the live streams on those other platforms. Awesome. You're going to have a better experience on YouTube. At Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page, you can find this live stream and join the conversation like Derek and Titan Fox. Derek asking, is anybody actually watching this garbage tonight? At least two folks, these two guys right
We're
here.
Sickos.
But we are contractually obligated to do
yes.
so. Otherwise, I don't know what my answer would be. Kenneth also here, saying, good evening, guys. The Levis era is here. Vibes are high despite the 3-5 record till a game is played. Absolutely, Kenneth, the vibes are high, and we're excited to talk about what Will Levis can do in his third game of his NFL career. We, of course, have to talk about our lovely and amazing sponsors here at Boom Boss Craft Pizza. We love it here. We can't wait for every Thursday, each and every week, we get to come down here and do the show, which is awesome. We love doing the show from here. Great setup. But then we get to hang out at the bar, eat delicious pizza and appetizers. Pizza unlike any pizza you've had before. I've not really talked up the craft pizza element of this place recently, and it deserves it because they have some delicious pizzas that I guarantee you have never tried before, which you should come and do. And if you come and join us on Thursdays, we're doing gift card giveaways each and every week. So if you just come on down about 20-25 minutes down the highway from downtown Nashville to Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House here in Spring Hill, say hello. Say, I know who you are. I'm here to watch the game. I'm here to watch the show. We will give you a gift card. You can eat and drink for free, my friend. That is an advertisement that should sell itself. I don't know how much more smooth talking I got to do to get you down here for some free food and booze. It's a good time. We'd love to see you each and every Thursday night this season. All right, let's dive into Titans and Buccaneers, which is our topic of discussion today. Maybe a shorter show for you today. If you are a fan of all of our fine content here on the 440 Podcast Network, you know that I did a show earlier today, filled in for Zach Lyons, who, last I checked, JT, latest reports indicate he has lost at sea. Maybe the latest victim of the Bermuda Triangle. I don't know, but he is gone possibly forever. And so I was filling in, talking about the Titans in his stead on a football show today. Had a great time talking with Braden Gall. After you finish watching this show, you can really get the second half of the Titans-Buccaneers preview by going and watching or listening to the recording of that show, a football show here on the 440 Podcast Network. You can find it on 440's YouTube channel, the A Football Show podcast feed. Of course, you just search that up where you get your podcasts. So check that out. But we're talking in this episode of a Hot Read podcast about all the things I didn't mention in A Football Show today. So they are very, when I do a 2-show day like this, I make sure to not repeat myself as much as humanly possible, because I know that there are folks that listen to both and don't want to hear the redundancy. So I've got some new takes. A couple hours later, I've had a couple of hours in the lab to generate some thoughts on this game.
Marinate.
I've let this game marinate on the old dome, and I've got some thoughts. And I want to start with this. JT, it is a number. It is a number we've plugged in here for our stats and info portion of the preview that you brought to me. I was unfamiliar with this statistic. It's from the world of betting, which we get into later with the Best Bet Gauntlet. Obviously, we're going to continue to roll and make you money and make ourselves money while we're at it. But it is a betting number that pertains to the winning and losing of this game, and it is so good. You come to me with numbers as the good producer you are. I say thank you, and I claim them as my own, as a host does. It's a little behind the curtain of the show business here, but this one felt so good and so unique that I feel bad stealing it from you. So would you mind telling the people what this statistic is? It's good news for the Titans.
It is really good news for the Titans, and maybe
it's random. It's a weird number,
so random,
but it's a strong. It's got some strong signal on it.
And this basically has to do not with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Titans in general. Here,
it's a great state of Florida.
It has to do with the wacky and great state of Florida. So I found this on Action Network. Shout out to the guys over there; they do wonderful work.
Great work.
But teams that face either the Buccaneers, Jaguars, or Dolphins on the second leg of a road trip or more. So that is the Titans actually this week and next week, because they will be heading to Jacksonville on a 3-game road trip there. Those teams on the second and third legs are 95, 51, and 5 against the spread in the last 20 years. That's an insane hit rate right there.
It is. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that the weather is typically nice. Maybe it's the fact that
something about Florida, man.
These teams have been like largely bad over the last 20 years. Probably has something to do with it. But again, the spread is factored in there. So like that means they'd have to be bad against spread. I don't know. From a betting standpoint, we're going to use that later. Yes. And we are taking, one of us is taking a side in the Titans game for a record 10th week in a row, 9th week in a row. Now we may go the whole season and bet one of the sides in the Titans game every single week. We don't know. I don't come into the week planning on doing that. It just so happens one of us at least each week likes the Titans in that game or likes the Titans opponent in that game. But that's a crazy number. Another number that is fascinating to me and shouldn't really shock you. I've been watching Will Levis and the Titans operate recently. It's Will Levis and his proclivity to push the ball downfield. Most completions of 20-plus yards from week 8 to week 9. So in the last 2 weeks, the 2 weeks that Will Levis has been playing, he is second in the league to only Dak Prescott on the Dallas Cowboys. Dak has 12 completions of 20-plus yards. Will Levis has 10. Baker Mayfield, his opponent in this matchup, is tied for 5th on this leaderboard with 8 such completions. So these are two teams that like to push the ball down the field. Not shocking, given Will Levis's play style. And then Baker Mayfield, less his play style and more the weapons at his disposal. You know, Godwin and Evans, two very, very talented receivers that are good at getting space downfield, getting open, and Baker has a sneaky big arm, can get that ball down there to them. I want to talk about this road stretch for the Titans and these next 2 games in Florida in particular, because we love a good halfway. We love a good 1/3 of the season check-in, a halfway check-in. We love milestones, right? And talking about the narrative and the 10,000-foot picture of what a team's season is going to look like. And a lot has been made over the past couple of weeks about how this London game really means a lot before the bye, about what this team season is going to look like. Oh, this game after the bye, Atlanta, this is really the last. They got to win this game or they're probably in tank mode. Oh, this Pittsburgh game, if they win this, get to 500, they're really. I think that's all been fine and good and whatever. I'm gonna plant my flag in the ground on these 2 games and say this game against Tampa Bay on Sunday, and then the game against Jacksonville, both games in Florida, the next 2 weeks of the Titans. These are the games that make or break their season from a competing for the playoff standpoint. Now, obviously, I would say Titans fans are actually blessed by the fact that this season winning is kind of a bonus at this point because it's about looking forward to what Will Levis can develop into to really go pedal to the metal, full speed ahead in 2024. $100 million of cap space, building around him. Rand Carthen with his first year of real offseason flexibility, all of those things. Super exciting. So that's really what we're looking towards here, right? But this Titans team clearly capable of winning games, clearly capable of losing games. And they're in a division that is currently being won pretty handily by the Jaguars. But you look at the talent of these teams, the advanced metrics, the schedule for these teams coming forward or coming up in the future. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that this Titans team, if they got hot and if Will Levis continued to play at this level and they start to put some wins together, could be a playoff contender in the hunt down the stretch in December and January. So that being said, these two games at Tampa Bay in week 10, at Jacksonville in week 11, they matter so much for that. Currently sitting at 3-5, right? This Titans team, really, their playoff hopes are hinging largely on the fact that they have 5 division games remaining, 2 of which are against the division leading Jacksonville Jaguars, who are at 6-2 and have a serious lead on the Titans. They need to win that Jacksonville game, not to look too far ahead, but in week 11, that is a must. Against this Tampa Bay team, it's also very important not to go 3-6. And so when you look at the two as kind of a package deal, I think that the outcomes are, if you lose both, your playoff hopes are scuttled. You need to be looking for a top tackle lottery ticket in the draft and vying for that draft positioning. Because if you drop both of these games and fall to 3-7, your season is pretty much, from a playoff standpoint, a wash. If you win one of these games and you get to 4-6, you're not dead. Now, if you're going to win one, it needs to be that Jacksonville game, right? You need to have that head-to-head 2-game swing in the division plan, the division standings, rather. So that's what they need to plan on doing is win that game. And obviously that's something that is going to be, I think, a dogfight of a game. We'll get to that next week.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, just
Sure.
like you were saying, and not even to talk about how important, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Jacksonville has a very tough matchup this week against the San Francisco team that is on a huge losing streak off the bye, just like Jacksonville is.
They're easily the more desperate team in that matchup. San Francisco needs that game far more than Jacksonville does.
And so you could be looking at the possibility here of, if the Titans and Will Levis are able to get a win this week, and then you go and the Jacksonville Jaguars lose to a very desperate San Francisco team, and you move on to next week's game where you can have a 2-point swing in the division, just like that. Like we were saying before the Atlanta game, like, it's not over yet. These things can happen with the snap of your fingers, right? Everything can change overnight, and with the way that this Titans team is playing, if they are able to put it together, I think there's a good shot.
Well, if Jacksonville, I'm not saying that they're likely to, but if Jacksonville loses this week and then loses the Titans, and the Titans win out the next 2 weeks, this is an example of how quickly things can flip.
Yep.
The Titans will go from, we're sitting right now, Jacksonville leading the division 6-2, Titans at 3-5. Then you're at Titans 5-5, Jacksonville 6-4, and the Titans have won one head-to-head against Jacksonville, so they're a game back. Like, that's how quickly the tides can turn. And so that's why we're not writing them off for the playoffs. But they need to win at least one of these 2 games. And if they win both on the road, not only does that restore some semblance of confidence in this team's ability to accomplish anything on the road, win on the road, not consistently shoot themselves in the foot on the road, but it puts them in real contending for the AFC South position. And you still have one Jacksonville game coming up. So at that point, in that hypothetical, the Titans would actually control their destiny, because if you then win the other if you're one game back, but you have a head-to-head game left. If you win that game, you've got the tiebreaker both games. So not writing them off, but this absolutely is a season-defining pair of games for them, and it starts with Tampa Bay this week. And the first place that I want to go in this preview for the Titans in Tampa Bay is their offensive line situation, JT. A lot of talk this week about what the lineup's going to look like. Obviously, on a mini bye, the Titans have a pretty banged-up unit. Everybody on Thursday Night Football last week in Pittsburgh got hurt on that starting offensive line, besides Aaron Brewer at center. And so what it's going to look like this week is still a mystery. As of right now, it sounds like Daniel Brunskill, right guard, is going to be too banged up to play. which is a bummer because it's probably going to mean that the Titans' latest ultimate swing offensive lineman, Dylan Radins, who has now played every position on the offensive line for the Titans besides center, is going to fill in at right guard. That is what is being telegraphed to us from the players in the locker room and the coaches at the podium. That being said, it is going to, by default, likely mean you get, who, Andre Dillard, out there at left tackle once again, and that is a recipe, obviously, for disaster. What we'd liked to see, at least I would, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'd imagine you share this sentiment. We'd prefer to see a real, genuine shot at left tackle given to Dylan Radins, because he's proven himself at this point to be one of the best 5 linemen on this team, I think. Easily best 6 if everybody is healthy. And he deserves to be given a shot at left tackle, the position he played in college, the position he was drafted at, and then he started one game there a couple of seasons ago. But they've bounced him around so much. They've been so insistent, this coaching staff, that he is an interior guy. We want to develop him as a swing guy and as an interior guy. They, for some a reason that I cannot put my finger on, JT, they won't give this guy a shot on the outside, and it's really frustrating. Why won't they give him a shot?
I mean, why?
It's an impossible question for me to ask.
Why do they give him more of a shot than they would give Peter Skoronski a shot at left tackle? Like, all these things ring true, that they think that the best option at left tackle to play a full 60-minute game is Andre Dillard. Like, that is just how they feel if they are not willing to at least give him a shot. And maybe they will have to adjust during the game if Andre Dillard just looks absolutely desperate out there against a...
You mean when he does? Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, yes, that is also true.
No, I'm willing to go out on that limb. I'll
okay.
say when he does. Yeah.
Against a Buccaneers secondary that just got Vita Vea back. They have a rookie in Kalijah Cansey, who the past couple of weeks has kind of been looking like a line breaker at some points in his young career.
Young Aaron Donald, Kalijah Cansey.
Right. So it's going to be tough, right? But like, it's not impossible for this line to have a bounce back spot, because they're not going up against like TJ Watt as they did last week. They're going up against some good players.
Well, it's the interior that's scarier. It's the Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea on Aaron Brewer. Vita Vea has a whole full-sized golden doodle's worth of weight on Aaron Brewer. I mean, it is a scary. Aaron Brewer is a good offensive lineman. He's a secret weapon to have in the run game. As a puller, he's fantastic. He's got freaky athleticism for a lineman, but he doesn't have his size. We know this. And so when he goes up against a guy that is a human bowling ball in Vita Vea, the interior standout defensive lineman for Tampa Bay, it's going to be a problem. And I think it's going to limit that, because in recent weeks, they've really been utilizing him as a puller in the run game, trying to get him to the second level, trying to get him on the outside. I don't know what their game. I'm very fascinated to see what their game plan is with him this week because of that unique matchup.
It definitely could be to the detriment of Will Levis and having to use a lot more 12 personnel here.
And Stoney says Vita Vea is going to rip Andre Dillard in half like Jax from Mortal Kombat.
But like I was saying, it could be a detriment to Will Levis because of how much maybe 12 personnel they're going to have to play. It's kind of maybe likening that to the Cleveland game as well, where you just don't have the ability. Instead of having to go up against a game breaker like Myles Garrett, you're going to have to go up against game breaker that is, we don't have the depth here, so we're going to have to put a tight end out there as a glorified blocker as necessity, you know? So it'll be interesting to see how they do that this week.
Titan Fox asks me to explain what a golden doodle. It's just a large dog, like a golden retriever. It's a mix. I've got a buddy who's got a very large horse-sized golden doodle that I was at his house the other day, and that's what made me think of it. But
maybe an Irish wolfhound instead.
Sure, and I like that. It's a good dog breed. Titan Fox also says put Duncan in at right guard and Radins at left tackle. They wouldn't, or they won't, but it would be smart. I agree with half of this. But don't put Duncan at right guard. He's a tackle prospect. He's a tackle prospect.
Mostly tackle.
If you're having to plug and play a guy on the interior like that, the Titans have better options. I think Corey Levin is who I would go with personally. I'd play. I mean, Levin, he's low ceiling, high floor, reliable. He's going to get beat 1 or 2 times a game, but he's going to be reliable for the rest of the snaps, and that known quantity is valuable. So I would put Levin in there. But it sounds like they are going to be playing. I'd bet money on it at this point that Radens is put there at right guard, and you put Dillard on the outside because they see more in Dillard than the rest of us, obviously. Benjamin Seaman. By the way, Benjamin Seaman. We went to church together, grew up together. He's older than us. He was my church league basketball coach for many years. So Benjamin, appreciate you joining us.
Is he
on the
like
show
a Nick
today.
Nurse or a Greg Popovich? Like, where are we putting him on here?
Players coach, big players coach.
Coach.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got to be a players coach
Yeah.
in church league. Benjamin, you can tell me if I'm mischaracterizing you, but I think that you were absolutely a players coach out there. He says that in the offseason, the Titans need to buy the best free agent tackle money can buy, draft the best tackle left on the board, keep Brunskill and Skoronski. Biggest decision left is center, where we sunk a lot of money inexplicably. That's the plan, 100%. I think that first of all, I know that their plan going forward is Brewer at center. He's their center of the future. I don't think there's an issue with that. I really don't. I think he's a perfectly fine center. He's a good center. He's a great. It's very situational. In games like this, you're concerned about individual matchups in the inside. But how many Vita Veas are there in the league? Very, very few. Generally speaking, the interior pressure can be handled brain trust style with the interior offensive linemen, all three of them. And they are able, obviously, they've shown they're able to scheme around him and utilize him. Sorry, Benjamin said he was the Bobby Knight of Church League. Rest in peace. Fair. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. So I think that he's going to be their future. And yeah, you need, we talked about this last week. You need two tackles, new tackles this offseason. And that's, you got a lot of money to put towards that, but draft capital needs to be the thing that
it's just tough when you have tackles like Orlando Brown Jr. and the like going off the market this year. You wish you would have had.
Well, in the free agent market, a tackle next season, it doesn't look great. It's never great because there aren't many good tackles in the league. So that's the nature of that. Let's move on from the offensive line here. A comment from, where did it go? Kenneth, good friend Kenneth here, says anybody underestimating Baker is making a huge mistake. He cooked the Titans for near 30 in the first half when he was with the Browns. I was at that game. I remember it was not fun to watch. Also, Titans suck on the road. This is true. Let's talk about what this Buccaneers offense is going to present to the Titans. Reason for concern in this game is this Buccaneers team, and do me a favor, pull up their points scored for each, like their record results this season. Last week they scored 35, 37 against Houston in that loss, 30-something. 37. And then final was 37-39.
Unfortunately.
They're a point shy of you covering it in the best I got. That's tough. Yeah, they're capable, unlike the Titans offense so far this year, frankly, of putting up 30-40 points in games. They've done it on a number that they put north of 20, I think, in most every game this season.
Yeah, so they've failed to score 20 points in
one game
for 3 games.
3 games. They failed to score 20.
Yes, they only scored 11
I
points
forgot they
against
played
the Eagles.
some tough teams.
The
Eagles, sure.
They only
the
scored
Lions.
6 points against the Lions and then 13 against the Falcons.
Okay, well, here I am learning on the job. But the games that stuck were in my mind were against the Ravens scoring 26 points.
Yes. Against
the Texans scoring 39 points. Against I couldn't read it. The Saints scoring 26 points. And then how many did they score against the Bears there?
Against the Bears here, they scored 27.
27 points, right. So my point here is that this offense, against bad defenses, of which I think the Titans, unfortunately, can right now be characterized as, they're capable of putting up a lot of points. And so part of me, the analyst in me, wants to kind of see that. I kind of want them to run up the score to force Will Levis to be in a negative situation, just to see if he's capable and this offense is capable of putting up points. Obviously, that's bad news for the Titans. The Titans defense needs a big bounce back week in this game, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But that is the biggest thing for me, looking at their offense and the challenge they present for the Titans defense. They can score a lot of points, and in recent history, Titans defense allowing a lot of points typically means you're hamstringing the offense. They're not going to be able to keep up. You're going to lose the game pretty handily.
Yeah, and I think to your point there, I think we'll get to the defense here, but when you are down like that, that's where you start to see them go away from Derrick Henry this season, because obviously it just you have more of an explosive playability in the passing game with Tyjae Spears right now because he can go off whenever everything just clicks. But to the defensive point, I think they will be able to have a bounce back spot this week because of just how poor the Tampa Bay running attack is. I mean,
Right.
Rachaad White has put up production, but it's because
It's weird because I think he's a good running back.
He's an okay
But
running back.
He's fine. He should
He's
be capable of
serviceable,
being
yes.
average. But their run offense is near league bottom, at the league bottom. They're
Yeah.
horrible. Last I
It's
checked, they're
not-
31st.
Yeah, it's not great, and the only reason he has been productive this year is because they've given him the ball 26, 27 times a game. So
Right.
it's like it's very interesting. But one last thing on the Bucs offense. I don't know if you correct me if I'm wrong here. If you said during the Will Levis on how he's been completing a bunch of plays 20 plus yards downfield,
Pushing the ball downfield,
in the last in week 8 and week 9. Well, Baker Mayfield has done just the same. Will Levis has 10 completions of 20 plus yards week 8.
We've got another example.
I told you.
Another example of you being zoned out. I read this earlier.
No, I know. That's why I said correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, okay. Sorry, here I am correcting you. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Yes, but that is another point I want to bring up is
Sure.
that
They're capable of it.
they are capable of doing it. He's tied right now with Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow and the likes for these explosive plays downfield. So I just think that not having maybe Sean Murphy Bunting this week hurts. Having Roger McCreary back probably helps as well.
Probably it does.
And
In the end of Thursday night, you had 2 undrafted free agents on the field playing corner. You had Trey Avery and Eric Garror, who are capable, but they're UDFA young players for a reason. You don't really want them on the field.
Yes.
You certainly don't want them both on the field. And that was the case, and that was a problem, very evidently. You got to have one back.
Yep.
Luckily, McCreary is going to be back. It sounds like you're not going to get Sean Murphy Bunting back this week. We'll find out for sure on that tomorrow, but I'm not counting on that being the case. But having him there, getting Eric Garror off the field, and having a lockdown slot is very important. I'm curious to see, with the injury concerns at corner, if they move McCreary back outside for this game, they're probably going to do what is dictated by where the 2 star receivers on this offense are playing. If they're playing one of Evans or Godwin on the inside on a regular basis, Godwin does operate from the slot a good deal, then I think you'll see McCreary back at the slot like he's done a lot this season. But yeah, 3 weeks ago, I think you and I would be sitting here saying, this is a bad matchup for the Titans defense because the Buccaneers offense can't run the ball and the Titans run defense is great. They can pass the ball downfield. They can push the ball downfield, and this Titans pass defense is bad. I can't say that now because the run defense has fallen apart in the past month.
Yes.
So it's just bad defense in general, and it's broken right now. And we talked a lot about that on the football show today if you want to go check that out after this. But if we're assuming the run defense will be able to this is a get-right situation for them given this poor run offense of the Buccaneers. Just footnote here. If this Buccaneers rush offense is awesome in this game, then it's real. It's 5.
We have
it's
a big
pound
problem.
the alarm. It's
Yes.
DEFCON 1 on the Titans run defense.
Yep.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. This is I think still a pretty bad matchup for the Titans defense because of the fact that the Buccaneers are going to be able to exploit passing downfield.
I can just already see a play like the one in the Cleveland game with Amari Cooper. Like I can already envision a broken coverage Mike Evans touchdown here. Like that is the big thing that that this Titans secondary is going to have to do is eliminate the big plays.
Well, and you bring that up. The player that was covering Cooper in that game on that play was Christian Fulton. And I wanted to talk about him a little bit because this for me is the heat check game for Fulton. You've heard a lot in the past couple weeks about how sneaky, quietly Christian Fulton has been coming along. He's been putting it together. He's had 3 or 4 really nice games in a row. And it's true. He has. Credit to him for that. However, it's been against bad receiving cores and bad quarterbacks. This is Baker Mayfield for all of his flaws. He is clearly the best quarterback that Christian Fulton's going to be defending against since London a full month ago. And so this is the heat check for me. If he's truly put it together, this is the game to show it. They're relying on him a lot, missing some starters at the corner position. The safety situation is still kind of a changing one. They're still adjusting to the loss of Kevin Byard, I'd imagine. So this is the game for him to put up or shut up for me. I will believe that he's figured it out if in this game he manages to shut down Evans or Godwin. But you know what? I'm gonna wait to see on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about in this game? It's kind of a brief recap today because we have, again, if you want to go check out a football show, there's even more from Braden and I earlier today. Any more parting thoughts you have on this game? Looking forward to. You can talk about what we expect from Will Levis. Maybe what is progress to you for Will Levis in this game?
I mean, yeah, we can talk about this real quick. The inverse, I think, is exactly the same. I was looking at just some PFF stats here.
DEFCON 20, by the way, according to Michael Scott for Paul Bakke.
Yes. I was looking at PFF this week. This Bucs secondary is very susceptible to big plays as well. Just as the Titans. We saw CJ Stroud do it last week. Tank Dell kind of
737 passing yards, 19 touchdowns. Is that what it was?
Nuclear,
right?
Yes, but not enough to cover.
Still mad about that.
Regardless, I could totally see a game where, once again, Will Levis maybe looks better in his decision making, but still continues to just pound the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. And I think he might be able to get away with it just because this secondary unit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has not been the best.
It's not. And speaking of receiver, just a little bonus bet for you before the best bet gauntlet. Kyle Phillips has had 2 nice weeks, had a breakout week last week. I checked his receiving prop number today, 19.5. Over under 19.5 receiving yards for Kyle Phillips. He's gone over that, well over that last week, over that in both of the 2 games he's been back from injury. You know what? I'd sprinkle on Kyle Phillips to go 20 or more receiving yards in this game. I think that they're going to continue to utilize him. We were talking to James earlier this week in an episode that you should absolutely go check it out because it's a film breakdown with James Foster, one of the best in town doing it on our Wednesday show. If you're watching us on YouTube or on the podcast feed, just go to the most recent episode before this. He doesn't think Kyle Phillips is 100% healthy yet, and it still has another gear to unlock, which is scary because he looked really fantastic last week in presumed limited capacity. So he's a guy I think that you could really get open, be utilized often in this game. It's a big game for DeAndre Hopkins. It wouldn't shock me if this is a big game for NWI because, again, their linebacker core is very good. They have very good linebackers.
Yeah.
They don't have great corners. They don't have great safeties. It's the outside guys. It's the guys that are going to be pushing the ball downfield. They're the ones that are going to be set up for success in this one, and it sets up well for Will Levis, who, again, going against a defense who allowed so much in the passing game to CJ Stroud and company. Maybe it's a get-right game for them. Maybe the Titans caught him at the wrong time, and that was a wake-up call for them against Houston. But if they can't really step up their game from last week, it's going to be very good news for Will Levis pushing the ball downfield all day long.
Yep.
All right. That is our preview for today. Again, if you want more, that was kind of brief from us today. If you want more on this game, go to a football show earlier today when Braden and I broke down this Buccaneers Titans.
It's kind of fair though. We did an hour and a half show on Wednesday.
We did. You know what? And people can only take so much of me in a day. I can understand that. My wife can only take so much of me. You can only take so much of me. I can only take so much of me. I need to shut up more often, I suppose. A parting thought from Ben Seaman. Feels like the Titans will need to score some points this week. Absolutely. Tampa Bay could not stop Houston last week. Interested to see if they get creative or stay conservative. Kenneth says, my biggest concern is Mike Evans versus our cornerbacks. It's like Jaws versus a bunch of odd jobs in GoldenEye. I agree with both of these comments. Those are going to be key matchups and units to watch in this one. All right. We've got the best bet gauntlet coming up. Before that, got to advertise once again our fantastic sponsors here at Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House. Come on down any Thursday night before Thursday Night Football to catch the show live. Get a gift card on us, eat and drink for free. Delicious food and drinks here. We would love for you to come and hang out with us. Check out a Boom Boss wherever you are. The nearest Boom Boss to you is also a place you should check out if you don't want to come on down to Spring Hill. 3 Middle Tennessee locations here in Spring Hill, over in Murfreesboro, and then in East Nashville if you prefer to stay downtown, and then locations in Indiana and Kentucky as well. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, for the dozen or so of you that are listening live with us on YouTube right now, help us out. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. It's free to you. It helps us a lot. Thanks a lot for that. All right, let's get to the news with producer JT.
Yeah, and the first thing we're going to talk about is this Thursday injury report. Let's talk about the guys who did not practice today. some names already that are pretty set in stone not to go this week. Nicholas Petit-Frere, which we touched on Wednesday, he's pretty much done for the year. Treylon Burks with that nasty concussion also not playing this week. Probably a decent chance of not playing next week. And then, as you said, Daniel Brunskill is the big one, I think, this week. 2 DNPs this week, so probably not going to go. And then Sean Murphy-Bunting as well, 2 DNPs. So those guys look like they are not going to go. A couple other guys here on the injury report. Cornerback Anthony Kendall did not practice today. Derrick Henry did not practice because of rest. And then Ryan Tannehill was downgraded from a limited participation to a DNP this week. I think that's the biggest one I want to ask you about. Do you think, obviously on Wednesday, Ryan Tannehill came out and said he wasn't fully back yet. So would you anticipate that Malik Willis would be the backup this week?
I think Tannehill will be inactive at least one more week. I think Malik will be the backup. Yeah, I just don't. You see some of the videos from practice. He looked kind of gimpy out there yesterday when he was practicing. I think they're going to take it slow. He's obviously in no rush. He, from a personal standpoint, is focused on his unrestricted free agency coming up at the end of the year, being healthy and available for the Titans. Obviously, if Will Levis goes down, they need him to step in. That's his primary objective. But looking to his future as an NFL athlete, being ready to impress a team enough to get a nice contract elsewhere at the end of the year. So I think they're going to take their time with him.
Yeah, and then one more here that should be noted. Luke Gifford, the linebacker, is limited this week with the shoulder, but pretty much everyone else on there is pretty full go, besides just some rest.
Some notable ones: Chris Hubbard coming back from the concussion. Sounds like he's going to be at right tackle, which is dare I say, a must in this game for the Titans. So that's good news for them.
Yeah, and then we can talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers side here. A couple ones here that are the most pressing. Carlton Davis, who is a guy who's in there a lot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, has
cornerback
has not practiced yet this week with a toe injury. Josh Hayes, also a defensive back, did not practice yet this week with a concussion. Jamel Dean, who is also another starting cornerback for them.
Their secondary is so banged up, man.
Yeah, he is limited now with a concussion. It's yet to be seen if he's going to be able to come back from that protocol this week. And then Kalijah Kancey shows up on the injury report today with a quad injury. He's limited, but probably will go there.
Yep, big news, obviously, in the Buccaneers secondary. That's the primary thing there. They're already not great, and if they're banged up, it's going to be a big opportunity for Will Levis and company.
Yeah, let's talk about some other quick notes here for the Titans. Another guy to be on the lookout for this week because of how banged up the Titans are in certain areas is TK McClendon, who has been a guy who has been around the team on the practice squad and on the active roster sometimes. But if TK McClendon Jr. plays for the Titans on Sunday,
who we're bearing the lead here, by the way. Sorry, they signed him. They signed him to the active roster, and we found out why Naquan Jones was let go. Yes. This is why. Yeah.
He'll become the 7th UDFA to suit up for the team this season. He will join Keiris Jackson, Eric Garrer, Otis Reese, Caleb Murphy, Matthew Jackson, and Anthony Kendall with those UDFAs there.
That's a cool stat. It's also not good for a football team when 7 undrafted free agents are
It's
playing.
A fun stat for like your Tennessee Titans trivia at Applebee's 20 years from now or something like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But
it's not good for the football product. Really not.
Yeah, they also join all 6 of the Titans 2023 draft picks that have also played this year. So in total, if TK McClendon plays this year, 13 rookies for this team.
This is a team in transition. This is a team in flux. This is natural. This is the process. It's the way it's got to be. Not shocking, but at the same time, kind of surprising when you put it all together there on paper and look at it.
And let's just finish off here the news section with just talking about how many
this team is in flux in transition. How about the league?
The league is in flux with how many quarterback injuries there are this season. So this week with a couple starters like Tommy DeVito starting, Joshua Dobbs finally getting a start. Well, he already started this year, but with how many backup quarterbacks have been playing this year, it will set a record in a non-replacement player season with 10 rookie starting quarterbacks. The previous mark since quarterback stats began being tracked in 1950 was 9 in 2019. Tough look here.
Time to break it. Time to break that record, baby.
Yep.
Unbelievable. I mean, like if you are wondering why is offensive production and touchdowns and fantasy down this year, this is why, guys. We got a changing of the guard. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and who am I forgetting here? Like that generation, Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, like those fellas have stepped away. We've got some fantastic names to replace them in Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Will Levis. And
I knew it was coming.
Had to slide it in there. Had to slide it in there. You've got guys to slide in there, but there's kind of a gap, right? Because the oldest guys in the league right now are Aaron Rodgers, still kicking it, trying to come back from the Achilles with the dolphin noises or whatever. But the oldest starters are like Russell Wilson, mid-30s. Ryan Tannehill until 10 seconds ago, mid-30s. Matt Stafford, mid-30s. And then there's a big gap. And then it's like Patrick Mahomes at 28, 29, 30 years old. And that's like the new old guard of quarterbacks are in their upper 20s, right, just peeking into the 30s. And so these guys, they're not as tenured. They're still figuring it out. You got a lot of guys playing. I mean, Tommy DeVito is out here playing on Sundays. What are we doing? Of course, we're not going to score a lot of points. All right, is that it for the news?
That is the news.
All right, that is producer JT with the news, and that means we've got one segment left. My favorite 15 to 20 minutes of the week on the Hot Read podcast. It's the Best Bet Gauntlet, reminding folks of where we're at this year in the Best Bet Gauntlet, the rules of which we fail to explain sometimes. Here's the Best Bet Gauntlet, guys. JT and I go back and forth. We draft our 5 favorite sides of the NFL week. 5 each, so 10 in total. Make it kind of hard on ourselves because pro bettors are picking 5 or 6 each week. We're picking 10 in total. And yet, despite that, our records are something that we're very proud of. This season, we are both above 500 now. I'm at 23, 21, and 1. Coming back from a slow start, working my way back up into the plus territory. JT still hot as ever to start this year. 27, 16, and 2 as a show, which is what really matters here. We are 50, 37, and 3 on the year, 57.5% in 2023. They say you can quit your job if you're betting at 55%. That's the pro bettors number. We've been north of 55% all year long. The money keeps pouring in, and we would love for you to bet along with us just to give you some perspective on the longevity of our success here on the Best Bet Gauntlet, because we've got to establish some credibility here to get you to bet along with us. All time, since the beginning of the Best Bet Gauntlet, which was at the beginning of last year's football season, we are 174, 132, and 12. 56.9% all time on a 315 plus betting sample size. That is a lot of bets to go almost 57% on. If you blindly bet with the Best Bet Gauntlet, every single bet since the beginning of last year, you'd be up nearly 27 units, and that number is climbing by the month. We have some down weeks, everybody does, but on the long-term trajectory of the Best Bet Gauntlet, all we do is head up, and we're looking to do that again this week. JT, before we get into our picks, an interesting note for this year and why I'm proud of what we've done so far this season, despite this metric. We talk all the time about squares and sharps and how the public is a losing proposition. That's how the sports books make their money and build giant buildings in the desert. The sharps are the ones the sports books fear. They're the folks that we listen to. They're the folks whose research we listen to and trail and parrot on to you guys, right? We are the closest thing to professional bettors you can be without being professional bettors. Okay, we take this very seriously, put a lot of work into it during the week, and we are the middlemen between the pros, the syndicates in betting, and you, the public. So we are happy to bring down this information from upon high. The public this year has been raking it up, JT. It's been a very public first 9 weeks of the NFL season. Public sides, based on which side has more percentage of total bets. They are 57% this year. That is extremely rare over the history of betting in the NFL. Very, very rare. The books this year, they seem to be getting the square bettors real fat and happy right before the holiday season, giving them plenty of spending cash for their Christmas presents and their Black Friday shopping and their holiday betting, where books historically clean up the most on the public in the late November, early December, early January time frame of the year. That's when books really hammer it home. The fact that public sides are this successful so far this year, to me, it's terrifying. It's daunting. It means that we're going to be forced to make some really, really, really gross picks down the stretch here because those are the ones that are going to cash.
Yep. And we start this week, right? This is another absolutely gross week. Back-to-back weeks where I just do not want to touch any of these games. But
there are a lot of weeks during the year where I'm like, oh, so many juicy lines.
Yes.
This week I'm like, there are 3 that I like.
Yes.
There are 4 that I like.
And yet here we are. Real quick.
You have the first pick, by the way.
I do have the first pick, unfortunately. And I just want to say that I personally feel like I've been violated by the NFL these past couple of weeks.
Is that so?
Yes. I've had tremendous bad beats the past 2 weeks.
Happens to the best of us. I hate that for you.
Having Nelson Aguilar absolutely sell on one of my picks to last week. Having Mike McCarthy just absolutely not know how to run an offense. And the Dallas Cowboys just not being able to put the Philadelphia Eagles away. And then also the Houston Texans failing to cover because their kicker got hurt. Real quick, if I can just tell you about how unlucky that Texans bet was.
Okay.
Teams with 5+ passing touchdowns going into last week were 102 and 13 straight up, 93, 16, and 6 against the spread over the last 20 years. That's an 85% cover rate. And CJ Stroud,
you, my friend, were the 15%.
I was
Congratulations.
the 15% because Kaimi Fairbairn cannot kick. And then they wouldn't let their
fullback
kick the extra point to make us happy.
Tough.
Unfortunate.
All right. Well,
however,
it's new week, fresh
it's a new
week.
dawn,
That's
it's a
all
new
behind
day.
us. It's
Yes.
new dawn. It's a new day. So with that, what is your first pick at the Week 10 Best Bet Gauntlet?
Yeah, my first pick this week is going to be Minnesota. I'm riding with Joshua Dobbs +3.
The Pasternak.
Versus the New Orleans Saints. And this is a pretty easy one. I think this is maybe my best bet this week.
Well, you're taking it first, so
yes.
I sure hope so.
It comes down to this, right? In games where Derek Carr is a favorite or a small underdog, his teams have struggled as a favorite or underdog of 3 or less. He is 36, 50, and 3 against the spread, paired with his coach Dennis Allen.
That's a 1 game away from the inverse of our record on the Best Bet Gauntlet.
Yeah, right.
Year. Right. Yeah, it's terrible. It's horrible.
In tandem with that, Dennis Allen coach teams are just 3, 14, and 2 against the spread, coming off a straight
3 and 14.
Win. Yes, they do not continue the momentum after getting a straight up win. By the way, they did get a straight up win last week against a Tyson Bagent led Bears team a teabag team
who we're about to see again, by the way,
yes,
in prime time. God help us.
Tyson Bagent outgained the Saints last week.
I know.
The Bears outgained the Saints last week, and the Saints were still able to somehow win that game because
fraudulent
I think
team.
Tyson Bagent threw like 4 interceptions or something.
There were 3 or 4 turnovers in that game.
I'm just interested more in seeing this Joshua Dobbs team now that they have a week where Josh Dobbs can actually learn the plays.
How about that? His teammates' names.
Be able to produce a little bit more, and getting them as home underdogs this week is one of my favorites. So I'm going to take them +3.
I'm never going to complain about a home dog. I understand that. For folks, just to clarify, I've had some folks, JT, it's been heartening. This week, I've had 3 different people come to me and say, I'm tailing the Best Bet Gauntlet. I trust you guys, which is really nice. And so they look at our numbers. We put out on a weekly basis, typically, me or JT or both of us, put out tweets at Easton Freeze, at JT_Runke, of lines we're taking early in the week to lock in that number for the Best Bet Gauntlet to take early. You got to follow us and follow the Hot Read Pod at Hot Read Pod on Twitter to get those numbers, to know when we're taking them, because we're trying to get the best of the number. I put out New Orleans -2.5 in this game because I liked that side early and I felt like it was going to go to 3. Looking at the numbers, I'm with you, I think, on this one. I don't feel as strongly about it as you, but I respect your conviction. If you took the New Orleans -2.5 with me, if you like it, stick with it. I like getting under the field goal there, but I wouldn't blame you if you cash out. I may end up cashing out of that bet by the end of the week when more injury news comes out, when we hear more about the reports from these teams. So when you see those numbers from us, go ahead and take them, sprinkle on them, get the best of the number. Be ready to cash out, because sometimes as the week progresses, as injury news comes out, you got to back off of them. And that's one that I'm thinking about backing off on. I like your Minnesota side. All right. My first pick of the Week 10 Best Bet Gauntlet. I'm taking the Motor City Kitties and Motor City Dan at the Los Angeles Chargers -2.5. This was one of those numbers that I locked down earlier in the week. And if you waited until now, you probably missed out on the best of the number. very few -2.5s left. You're having to give up that hook and get the 3. I still like Detroit at the 3. So if you're betting now with us, this is the first you're hearing it, I'd still take Detroit at the 3. Up to 3, I wouldn't go 3.5. Here's the reasoning, okay? They're on the road, technically, in LA. That Chargers home field advantage doesn't exist. We know this, right? So I'm not worried about that. This is not a real home game. This is a very, very public side this week. I'm with the public on this one. Throughout the year, we've been going with the sharps or dumb vibes picks. This is a little bit of a vibes pick for me, but not really, because if you look at these teams, you look at who they've beat. Detroit is up there with the class of the NFC. They're currently second in the NFC. They have only lost to some of the best teams. They've lost to Baltimore, and they lost to Seattle, 2 other very good teams, in my opinion, in this league. They have handled their business and have been very profitable against the spread this year. The Chargers are the team that this is less a bet on the Lions and more a bet against the Chargers. The last 2 games we've seen of them have both been in prime time. You always have to be wary of that. Primetime winners are always overinflated in the market. They've won 2 games against 2 bad teams. They didn't look very impressive against the Bears last week?
Yes.
And then the week before, was it the Jets?
Bears and then Jets.
Okay, so those are the 2. I got mixed up the order, but Bears and Jets, they've won both of those games in prime time, convinced a lot of eyeballs across the nation, across the world that they're a good team. I'm not buying it, man. I'm calling their bluff. I think that they're a very mid team. I think that Detroit is a very good team. I think Detroit wins this game by a touchdown. I really have no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a trap spot for Detroit. If so, I'm walking into it. I'm running into it. I think Detroit is winning this game handily. I love this pick. Give me Detroit -2.5.
Yeah, with my second pick here, we talked about it earlier. I'm taking the Titans this week, +1 going into Raymond James Stadium, just because, even because of their away game woes, I still think this is a really good spot for them. First of all, just reiterate the stat that we said earlier.
Run it back.
On the second leg of a road game or a road trip, or later, so in which the Titans are on here going into Florida, if you play one of the Florida teams, which is the Bucs, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins, the team that is on that road trip is 95-51-5 against the spread.
95-51-5 ATS.
I'm blind betting that just because of the voodoo that is Florida.
You got it.
I think that is a really good spot here for them. Also, just Mike Vrabel reiterating once again how good he is as an underdog. When Vrabel is a dog of 3 or less, he is 21-17 straight up, as well as 17-2 against the spread. He's currently 4-2 against the spread in that spot this season. And then also after a straight up loss, Vrabel is 12-9-1 against the spread in that spot, winning against the spread in 3 of his last 4. Pretty easy for me. I think that these teams are pretty closely matched for everything that we've said tonight. So I'm going to take the underdog there, the Titans +1.
I like that bet a lot. I'll be telling you on that one for sure. My second bet of the Week 10 best bet going, I'm taking Baltimore -6 against the Cleveland Browns at home against the Cleveland Browns. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was you that earlier this season in the first matchup between these teams took the Browns, bet that in-division game voodoo, and it cashed for you. I'm betting against that.
No,
it
was
the other way around.
It was the other way around because it was the DTR game.
That's right.
And I got absolutely sold on that one.
You did. Okay, fair. I think that it has potential to be a voodoo divisional game. However, I think this is at the peak of the market for Baltimore. I think this is the best. I think they're peaking right now, which is not good news for them as a football team, but it's good news as a bettor. I think they are maybe the hottest team in the league right now. And if you look at their injury report today, JT, they have pretty much everyone healthy for the first time all year. So they're going to be at full strength. Cleveland has a lot of injury concerns, especially on the offensive line right now, I believe. I just think that they're such a better team right now at home. I like them under the touchdown. It's really simple handicap for me. I think that the hottest team in the league, they're at full strength right now. This is the time to cash in on Baltimore murdering teams, which they've been doing a couple of weeks in a row now. Yep. Give me Baltimore -6 at home against Cleveland.
Yeah, with my next pick here, I'm taking the Green Bay Packers +3, going to Pittsburgh. This one, for me, it's just kind of following the old rule that is bet the underdog in low total games. NFL underdogs in games with a total, which is the over-under, below 42 are 165, 109, and 6 against the spread since 2018, and 28, 15, and 2 against the spread this season. There's a lot of them this week, and my favorite of the week so far is Green Bay. Look, they're going up against a team that is extremely lucky, as we said. In mostly all their games, they've been outgained and have had
all of them, not mostly, all of them
have had a lot of luck go their way.
They're so fraudulent. JT, if you flipped the result of every one-score game for Pittsburgh this year, they'd be 0-8.
Would they really?
They'd be 0-8.
Yeah, well, maybe they're this year's Vikings for sure.
No, they are.
But either way, Jordan Love kind of surprised me last week. And this Pittsburgh team is not one that I think if Green Bay gets off to a slow start like they have in recent past, like Pittsburgh's not going to punish you for that. So I think this game's going to be close, and not buying into any of Mike Tomlin's ability here. The voodoo that is.
Can I add two things to this?
Sure.
One is that I'm 100% with you on this bet. One is that I think that Pittsburgh, being the public side here, is going to get bet up. So I think there's a chance you get that 3.5 by the end of the week. So just I would not bet this now. I would monitor it up until Sunday. Yep, see if you can get that 3.5. I think because the three will always be there.
3.5 for a little bit. And
it was. I think
back down.
I think it gets back there. The other thing is the Action Network, which we love to utilize all the time. They've got luck rankings, which we reference on a regular basis. It's complicated. You can look up how they do the process, but I buy into it. You look at the success of luck ranking games in which the rankings of the teams each week, the luckiest and the least lucky in the league, head to head. Whenever you have a luck ranking differential of a certain amount, the unlucky team, the regression to the mean, and the lucky team regression down to the mean. Typically, the unlucky team cashes, and they have a winning percentage ATS using that formula. So look into all of that on Action Network. But this is the biggest, maybe the biggest luck ranking differential in the entire league. The Packers are 30th out of 32 in luck rankings this year. The Steelers are first.
Yep.
This is one of the least lucky teams against the luckiest team. They are due for regression. I think it comes in this game. I love this pick. My week 10, third overall pick in the best bet gauntlet is going to be the Germany game. I'm taking New England +2. I bet them a lot. I've been catching this New England falling knife a lot recently, but I'm going back to the well. They are +2 at home against Indianapolis. Here's the handicap on this one. The Colts were made to look so much better against that Panthers team last week than they actually were. 2 pick sixes were what decided that game. The Panthers and Bryce Young outgained them offensively. And Gardner Minshew is one of, if not the most negative play, turnover-worthy play-prone quarterbacks in the entire league. So I think that he is being slowly unmasked, exposed more and more each week as a serviceable backup, but nothing more. When you look at the actual scheme, Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator for the Colts, his defense famously plays more zone coverage than pretty much anybody in the league, and has always been that way and probably always will be that way. They don't go away from it even when it's situationally advantageous to them. New England is dead last in average yards per attempt this season against man coverage. But against zone, which is what the Colts will be playing, they're 13th. They're above average in the league. You also introduced the fact that Indy is 23rd in run defense DVOA this year. So it's going to be some Ramondre time. The Patriots are going to be able to play their kind of ball, their style of ground and pound ball. And you got guys like Pop Douglas, who are on that New England team, who are emerging in the well that was left behind by some injured and or bad pass catchers.
Yes.
There's been an opportunity presented to guys like Pop Douglas, who are stepping up and looking pretty good in recent weeks. I just think this is a spot for New England. I think that them getting 2 points on the road in Germany is this should be a pick'em game to me. So I'm going to take the points with New England in this one. Give me New England +2.
Yeah, with my next pick here, you had it last week with the Raiders, but I'm going to continue with the Raiders here, being home underdogs to the New York Jets of all teams this week. That's right. Zach Wilson is a favorite.
Are you telling me you're fading Zach Wilson as a favorite on the road?
Yes.
You madman.
I know, right? Here's a stat that I find very interesting here. Okay. Teams that allow 7 or more sacks in their previous game are 89, 115, and 5 against the spread in the last 20 years. That's a 43% 4.6% rate there. This Raiders team can get to the quarterback. Max Crosby has looked very good. He's looked as advertised this season. I'm expecting a lot of what Aiden O'Connell did last week to continue over into his third overall start, which, by the way, I haven't thought Aiden O'Connell has looked terrible.
He's been serviceable.
He's been
serviceable.
very serviceable. Yeah. And also, I think this passing attack is due for some positive regression. We've seen the last couple of weeks that Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams just have not had things go their way in the past couple of weeks. So I expect with another week under his belt, Aiden O'Connell gets better. This Jets team, they barely won a game against the New York Giants where Tommy DeVito had -9 passing yards.
Well, JT, this is a direct comparison, right? The Jets won in overtime against the Giants against Tommy DeVito. The Raiders in the following week won 30-6.
They did. They absolutely pounded the Giants. So this one really stuck out to me as I think Raiders at home. By the way, this is only the Jets' third road game of the season.
I know.
Because technically they were a road team when they played the Giants at
Not
MetLife.
a road game. Not a road game.
No. So I
think a road game like the international series or home games.
I think Zach Wilson and this team are going to once again not be able to put it together. You saw earlier this week, his coach, Robert Saleh, doesn't exactly have faith in him because he just does not have an answer for why he is still playing quarterback. But I like the Raiders this week as the underdogs at home.
All right, let's pick up the pace and get out of here. I think the people are tired of us, JT. Let's get these last 3 picks out of the way. This is easily the biggest spread taken on the best bet gauntlet in the history of the show. I'm taking Dallas -16.5.
I agree.
Against the Giants. I'd take it at 17 even. Here's the very simple handicap on this one for you, okay?
Tommy DeVito.
The Giants with Tyrod Taylor, a much better quarterback, against an above-average defense in Buffalo, was catching 14 points just 2 weeks ago. Now they're catching 16.5 with Tommy DeVito against a top 5 defense, top 3 defense even, in the Cowboys, and an offense that's on fire. Reminder, when these two teams met earlier in the season, they lost. The Giants lost 38-0 at home to Dallas. Dallas's offensive line, fully healthy now. They weren't the first matchup. Here's a number for you that's crazy. Dak, favored by 6 or more points in his career. 27-11 ATS, 71%. Like I said last week when I was right about the Cowboys handicap and you were wrong, the Cowboys, all they do is murder bad teams. This is the bad team right now. They're going to murder this bad team. Give me Dallas -16.5 at home against the G-Men.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And as Stoney says in the chat here, we do need to hurry it up because Virginia versus Louisville.
We're trying, Stoney. I got you. We're trying. Just two more picks.
I'm with you on that one. Of course, that is a no-brainer for me. If you weren't going to take it, it's
the world's largest line, and you have to take it. You just have to.
And then finally, here we go. We are once again going head-to-head this week.
Third week in a row, I believe.
Third week in a row. So. I'm taking Houston at that line that we grabbed earlier this week, +6.5. I wasn't going to initially take it. However, in light of recent news, T. Higgins looking not likely to go. Jamar Chase also banged up as well. This is a spot where I think that this CJ Stroud-led offense, which also is banged up, but I think CJ Stroud has just been on fire, and I think he continues to be so. They go up against the Bengals secondary, which has some nice pieces. Cam Taylor-Britt is playing very well. Mike Hilton is playing very well. But outside of that, their safeties have been less than desirable after losing Jesse Bates last year.
Fair.
So I think that they do just enough, especially at this line. I expect this as we get farther into the week to go down even more. We don't know if Jamar Chase is still going to play or not. So I'm just going to take him because I already think that this game, Cincinnati, we saw this one as well with the Seattle game with that spread. This Bengals team plays down to their competition at home sometimes. I'm expecting the same result here, especially with how good CJ Stroud has been. So I'm going to take Houston +6.5.
So I'm taking Cincy -6 in this game. And it's because I think that this is the litmus test for Houston. This is the heat check for them. And I'm just fading the noise a little bit. I love what CJ's done. I love what this team has done. But this is the game where they try to go from, we're the scrappy, fun team that's dangerous on any given Sunday, to we're a real competitor. That's what this game is. And Cincinnati is hitting their stride right now. They're at home against this Houston team coming off of a massive, massive, exciting win. I just think that this is a mismatch for them, and it's going to temper our expectations, bring them back down to where they should be on this Texans team. Young, frisky, fun. I think they're still a year away, so I'm willing to lay under the touchdown for Cincinnati -6 in this one. So that is our best bet gauntlet for Week 10. To recap, JT taking Minnesota +3 at home against New Orleans. Tennessee +1 on the road at Tampa Bay. Green Bay +3 on the road at Pittsburgh. Vegas +1 at home against the the Jets, and Houston +6.5 at the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm taking Detroit -2.5 at the Chargers. Baltimore -6 at home against Cleveland. New England +2 in Germany against Indianapolis. Dallas -16.5 at home against the Giants, and Cincinnati -6 against Houston. And that is our best bet gauntlet for the week. That is our show for today. And we appreciate those of you that tuned in with us live. A couple of things, parting words for you. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Help us out there. Subscribe on YouTube, Bravo Sports Media's YouTube page. Follow us on social media at Hot Read Pod on TikTok, Instagram, and what am I missing here? Twitter. TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us there. It's at Hot Read Pod across all socials. You'll get your very best content, clips, announcements from this show. You got to be following those accounts to know what is up. Enjoy watching the Titans and Will Levis in their third game with their new quarterback this week in Tampa Bay until Sunday evening when JT and I will be live recapping that game, reacting to that game, or Monday morning if you catch the podcast or the video show on YouTube. For JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. Enjoy the weekend of games. We'll talk to you again Sunday night.